Hello, trading is closed on Tuesday, the 5th of September, 2023. We'll do our disclaimer first. We'll go over our calls. We'll make some predictions for Wednesday. My trading plan for Wednesday, the 6th of September, 2023. It's a plan. I can change it. It can be dead wrong. All trades be made at your own risk. Also, for the next couple of weeks, I've got personal business. I'm not going to follow the market as closely as I normally do. And if you want to risk money on my plan, please bear that in mind. Look for the pattern with the early high, which is this, and tomorrow should also have the early high. We said that Friday's action was weak, and if it were maintained, at today's open we should see lower prices, even if we didn't close lower. And here's where we said that. Tomorrow has the early high. Well, if you want to look for something good in this pattern, you can find an ABC. There's your A, there's your B. There's your C right at 50%. And even though this looks like a weak day, nothing matters until we see where we open tomorrow. Even what counts is not today's close, but tomorrow's open. There's a wall into the close. These things tend to be panic selling by retail customers very often. Not always, but very often. We're going to gap up tomorrow, ideally over this high. And if we don't, you should know that before the open. Early on, we got an ultimate sell signal and an ultimate buy signal. Usually when these happen in the same pattern, you go nowhere for a while. That's what happened. The ultimate buy signal printed immediately. The ultimate sell met its minimum requirement right here. You don't have to get more than the minimum, and there is support when the target's hit. But almost always you get more than the minimum at some point. So we have support, we have a wall. There's a good chance we gap up over this, and this pattern normally either closes near the high or drops in a straight line. So if we get the normal pattern, we could gap higher than this high. We could gap over this and even break over this high if we get the normal pattern. But if we get more than the minimum, which we almost always do, we're going to gap up, hit a new high, reverse, and take out this low. It's not required, but it's a perfect setup for that to happen, and it's going to be a high likelihood of that happening. We're back under this trend line. We'll just forgive this little indiscretion by going over it. If we keep dropping from here, that trend line was resistance. Broke through but couldn't hold it. And somewhere in here, they're looking for this wave green C. We don't know if this is it, but after that green C, we want to rally, but green C should have some relationship to green A. So I don't think it pays to jump the gun, even though I think we're going much, much higher. Is it possible we could go up to this price? Seems kind of out of reach to me. Some other number might work. I don't see us going higher than that. But you never know. Well, tomorrow's pattern has the early high, but could still gap down. Today's pattern should have rallied into the close or had a straight line drop. Neither happened by the close, so the situation should be rectified by gapping smartly at Wednesday's open. The wall into the close makes it highly likely, not required, highly likely that we're going to gap up. And the wave count we showed early on is compatible with that. The ultimate sell signal has delivered its minimum requirement. There's support there. And if we do gap up, that support's going to hold, but almost always we're going to get more than the minimum. creates a scenario which a gap and trap can play out. NASDAQ, McClellan Oscillator, and the Volatility Index have now reversed back through their respective Bollinger Bands. That's typically what happens during a very short-term top. Well, it doesn't have to be short-term, but I think this top will be short-term. As always, if you gap down strongly, the call is killed before the open, and don't risk money overnight very often. Be aware the gap and trap is highly likely, but it's not required. Anyone taking a trade based on that prediction should have a reasonable stop. So we have this ABC. We're going to look for maybe an ABC up, gapping up over here, probably over here, and after that plays out, reversing back down, not necessarily in the same day, but very likely in the same day, and going under this low. But that's my plan as of now. Just remember, we gap down here, the plan is killed before the open. If we don't gap up and take this out, I'm not certain I'm going to risk money on it. But if it plays out, by gapping up and taking this out, I look for it to reverse. And we should know if we get that gap up right at the open. And of course, if we don't, we're going to gap down. That we're not going to know until tomorrow's open. So it's a pattern with the early high, hoping we get a gap up and a big rally so we can play for a short. But until that happens, I'm not risking any money. And that's today's call.